Hey everyone, welcome back to our channel. Today, we're honoring American legends who passed away on May 16, 2025, leaving behind incredible legacies. From music to film, their impact shaped our culture. Join us as we celebrate their lives and contributions. If you find this moving, hit that like button and subscribe for more tributes to icons who shaped history. Let's dive in. Joan O'Brien. Ever wonder what happened to a star who shared the screen with Elvis Presley, John Wayne, and Cary Grant, only to vanish from Hollywood's glow? Joan O'Brien's story is packed with talent, mystery, and moments that'll keep you hooked. Let's dive in. Born on Valentine's Day, 1936, Joan O'Brien was a Massachusetts kid who landed in California, where her spark was impossible to miss. By 8, she was dancing, but it was her voice that stopped people cold. Country legend Cliffy Stone spotted her as a teen and put her on Hometown Jamboree, a TV stage that screamed she was destined for more. And what came next? A leap into the big leagues. By her late teens, Joan was a regular on The Bob Crosby Show, charming audiences until it folded in 1958. Then, Lawrence Welk called her up in '59 to fill in for his star singer. She dazzled, but her stint lasted just a week. Rumors swirled. Did she clash with Welk's team, or was something else at play? Whatever happened, Joan wasn't slowing down. Hollywood came knocking, and Joan answered with a bang. In 1959, she starred in Operation Petticoat, holding her own next to Cary Grant and Tony Curtis. Her mix of wit and warmth lit up the screen, proving she could shine in a comedy packed with heavyweights. But that was just the start. The next year, Joan stepped into John Wayne's world, playing a survivor in the epic The Alamo. Fans loved her grit, and Wayne brought her back for the Comancheros in '61, where sparks flew as his love interest. Her Western roles cemented her as a name to watch, but there was more to come. And it involved the king himself. In 1963, Joan played Elvis Presley's girlfriend in It Happened at the World's Fair. Their chemistry had fans buzzing, with some even whispering about off-screen vibes. Online forums still light up with talk about whether Joan was the one who got away. But her story didn't stop at the movies. Joan hit the stage, wowing crowds at the Moulin Rouge and touring with the Playgirls in '61. By 1968, she was singing with Harry James' band, trading film sets for bandstands. So why did she step back? Some say the industry's grind wore her down, others hint at personal choices. The truth? It's still a puzzle. Joan O'Brien danced, sang, and starred with legends, yet her name faded too soon. Was she Hollywood's hidden gem, overlooked by history? Her legacy lingers in those iconic roles, waiting for fans to rediscover. What do you think? Why did Joan slip away? Drop your thoughts below, and let's keep her story alive. Jo Don Baker. Ever wonder who left a mark on James Bond as both a ruthless villain and a loyal ally? Meet Jo Don Baker, a Texas-born actor whose larger-than-life presence defined decades of film. But his story starts far from the glitz of Hollywood. Born in 1936 in Groesbeck, Texas, Baker faced heartbreak early. His mother passed when he was just 12, leaving an aunt to raise him. That grit shaped him, but who'd guessed this small-town kid would become a cinematic legend? In college, Baker studied economics, but acting stole his heart. After serving in the army, he trained at the Actors Studio, rubbing shoulders with future stars. By the 1960s, he was on Broadway, and soon, Hollywood called. His big break came in 1967's Cool Hand Luke, starring alongside Paul Newman. At 6 feet 3 inches with a commanding build, Baker was often cast as tough cops or gritty gangsters, roles that made him a go-to for directors. But there was more to him than met the eye. Then came James Bond. In 1987, Baker played the megalomaniac arms dealer Brad Whitaker in The Living Daylights, a villain fans still talk about. But he flipped the script, returning as CIA agent Jack Wade in GoldenEye and Tomorrow Never Dies. Only one other actor shares this ally-to-villain feat, making Baker a Bond enigma. And what happened next would surprise even his biggest fans. Rumors swirled about his private life. After a quiet divorce in 1980, Baker kept a low profile, sparking speculation about why he stepped back from the spotlight. Some say he shunned fame, others hint at personal struggles. What's clear is he stayed fiercely private, leaving fans curious. His TV role in Ice Kid and cult films like Mitchell cemented his versatility, even if some projects divided critics. When Baker passed in May 2025 at 89, tributes poured in, with ex-users praising his underrated roles. His legacy: a career that balanced grit, charm, and mystery. So, why does Baker's story still captivate us? Maybe because he proved you don't need the spotlight to leave a mark. Check out his films and see for yourself. Cristina Deleanu. What does it take to become a legend in a world that's constantly changing? One Romanian star's journey through tragedy, triumph, and timeless art holds the answer. Cristina Deleanu's story is one you won't forget. Born in 1940 in Ploiești, Cristina entered a world shaken by a massive earthquake. But her childhood faced an even greater blow when her father, Dimitri, was killed in the 1944 Bucharest bombings. At just 4 years old, she and her mother, Angela, survived the chaos, moving to Bucharest to start anew. This early loss forged a resilience that would define her life. But what sparked her passion for the stage? As a young girl, Cristina loved painting and drawing, but her high school years at Gheorghe Lazar introduced her to a circle of friends who dreamed of theatre. Inspired, she enrolled at Bucharest's Institute of Theatre and Cinematography, studying under George Carabin. Graduating in 1962, she was ready to shine. And shine she did. Her career began at the Vasile Alexandri National Theatre in IAI, where she captivated audiences from 1962 to 1967. She later joined Bucharest's Barbu de la Vrancia Theatre, performing until 1981, before landing at the prestigious Ion Luca Caragiale National Theatre. There, she brought countless characters to life until her retirement in 2001, with a final performance in 2003's Terzo Mondo. But the stage was just one part of her brilliance. In 1981, Cristina stepped into cinema with Destin Romantice and Orgoli, catching the eye of directors. Her role as the poised headmistress in Lycenii, 1986, made her a household name, balancing authority with charm, as she mediated between feuding teachers. Her television work, including La Musica in the 80s, further showcased her versatility. And there was more to come. Cristina's voice became a staple in radio theatre, enchanting listeners in plays like Our Everyday Tea and Orpheus in Hell. Between 1992 and 2000, she also taught at the Luciferal Art Academy, shaping the next generation of actors. But what about her life off the stage? Her marriage to actor Eugen Cristea was a quiet love story that began in the theatre. After a previous marriage to Matei Gheorghe, Cristina found a lifelong partner in Eugen, their bond built on mutual respect and shared passion. They became one of Romania's most admired artistic couples. But the final chapter wasn't without challenges. Rumors swirled about Cristina's health in her later years, with reports suggesting she faced serious struggles. In May 2025, she passed away at 84, leaving fans and friends like Marina Alman heartbroken. She tried to stay optimistic, Alman shared, hinting at Cristina's quiet strength. Her death marked the end of an era, but her legacy endures. Cristina Deleanu's life was a tapestry of art and resilience. From a child of war to a cultural icon, She proved that true talent never fades. So, what's the mark of a legend? Maybe it's leaving the world a little brighter, just as Cristina did. Charles Strouse. What do you get when a Broadway legend's music conquers stages, inspires hip-hop anthems, and sparks debates about faith? That's the story of Charles Strouse, a composer whose life was as dramatic as his shows. From Tony-winning triumphs to shocking flops and a controversial award that had everyone talking, Strauss's journey is anything but ordinary. Let's dive into the highs, lows, and secrets of a man who shaped American music. Strouse burst onto the scene in 1960 with Bye Bye Birdie, a vibrant musical that captured the frenzy of rock and roll and teen culture. At just 32, he crafted a score that was catchy, clever, and timeless, earning him his first Tony Award for Best Musical. The show, with its Elvis-inspired heartthrob Conrad Birdie, wasn't just a hit. It was a cultural phenomenon, launching Strouse as a Broadway force. But beneath the applause, the pressure was on to keep delivering. And what came next would test him in ways no one expected. Enter All-American in 1962, Strauss's bold collaboration with a young Mel Brooks. The musical aimed high but crashed hard, closing after just 80 performances. Critics called it a mess, and whispers of creative clashes between Strouse and Brooks started to swirl. Some say Brooks' wild humor clashed with Strauss's polished style, though neither confirmed the rumors. Despite the flop, the show gave us Once Upon a Time, a ballad covered by legends like Frank Sinatra and Tony Bennett. Strouse had stumbled, but he wasn't down for long. Something bigger was brewing. By the mid-60s, Strouse was back on top. Golden Boy in 1964, starring Sammy Davis Jr., ran for over 500 performances, proving he could tackle serious drama. Then came Applause in 1970, with Lauren Bacall commanding the stage. It was a gritty take on ambition and fame, and Strauss's score was electric, earning him a second Tony. He wasn't just writing music, he was telling stories that hit hard. But the real game-changer was still years away, and it would come from an unlikely source, a red-headed orphan. In 1977, Annie took Broadway by storm. Strauss's score, especially Tomorrow, became a global anthem of hope. The show won him a third Tony, 2 Grammys, and a place in history. But here's where it gets wild. In 1999, Jay-Z sampled It's the Hard Knock Life for his hit, Hard Knock Life, Ghetto Anthem, a quadruple platinum track that won 2 Grammy Awards. Suddenly, Strauss's music was blasting from car stereos, bridging Broadway and hip-hop in a way no one saw coming. Yet, even at his peak, cracks were starting to show. And what happened next would shock everyone. The 80s and 90s weren't kind to Strouse. Dance a Little Closer in 1983, with lyrics by Alan J. Lerner, was a disaster, closing after one performance. Rags in 1986 and Nick and Nora in 1993 fared little better, each folding after a handful of shows. Fans speculated, was Strouse out of touch? Had Broadway changed? Some pointed to his insistence on traditional storytelling in an era craving flashier productions. Others wondered if personal struggles played a role, though Strouse kept his private life tightly guarded. Whatever the reason, these flops stung, but they didn't define him. Something else would spark even more chatter. In 2011, Strouse accepted the Emperor Has No Clothes Award from the Freedom from Religion Foundation, an honor for public figures who challenge religion. Reports claim he spoke candidly about his skepticism, thrilling some and alienating others. Online forums buzzed with debate. Was Strouse bravely honest or stirring unnecessary controversy? The award added a polarizing layer to his legacy, showing he wasn't afraid to ruffle feathers. But there was more to the man than headlines. And his next moves proved it. Beyond Broadway, Strouse left a quiet but powerful mark. In 2002, he he composed Concerto America to honor 9/11 victims, premiered by the Boston Pops. He founded the ESCAP Musical Theatre Workshop in 1977, mentoring countless young composers. And his 60-year marriage to director-choreographer Barbara Simon, who passed in 2023, showed a devotion that outshone his stage lights. Strouse wasn't just a composer, he was a creator, a teacher, a partner. But his story doesn't end without one final twist. Charles Strouse passed away on May 15, 2025, at 96, leaving behind a legacy as complex as his music. He gave us songs that defined eras, from Annie's optimism to Bye Bye Birdie's energy. Yet, he also faced flops, sparked debates, and reinvented himself time and again. Was he a genius who peaked early, or a visionary who never stopped evolving? That's for you to decide. As his music lives on, one thing's clear: Strauss's story is far from over. What do you think his next chapter would have been? Jan Terlouw. What do you know about the man who shaped Dutch politics, wrote beloved children's books, and survived a war that changed him forever? Jan Terlouw is a name many recognize, but behind the physicist, politician, and author lies a story of triumphs, defeats, and hidden struggles that few talk about. From the shadows of World War II to the bright lights of leadership, his journey is packed with surprises. Let's dive into the life of a man who's worn many hats and faced challenges most never saw coming. Growing up in the Veluwe during the 1940s wasn't easy. Jan Terlouw was just a boy when World War II tore through the Netherlands, leaving marks that would define his life. His family, led by a pastor father, clung to faith in a time of chaos. Those years of fear and resistance seeped into his soul, later pouring out in Oorlogswinter, a novel about a boy navigating the horrors of war. It won awards, became a film, and showed the world Terlouw's knack for turning pain into stories. But what personal scars did he carry from those days? He's never been one to spill his heart, leaving us wondering about the untold weight of his childhood. And that wasn't the only path he'd take. Before politics or books, Terlouw was a scientist with a mind for the stars. He earned degrees in mathematics and physics, then a PhD in nuclear physics from Utrecht University. His work took him to MIT in the US and KTH in Sweden, rubbing shoulders with the world's brightest minds. He was decoding the universe, but something pulled him away from the lab. In 1971, he traded equations for elections, joining the Progressive Democrats' 66 party, and winning a seat in the Dutch House of Representatives. It was a bold leap for a man who'd spent years in quiet research. But what drove him to swap science for the messy world of politics? That's where things get interesting. By 1973, Terlouw wasn't just a politician, he was the face of D66. He took the helm as party leader, steering it through a stormy political sea. In 1977, his charm and knack for building bridges paid off. D66 gained seats, reaching 8 in the House, a high point for the party. People saw him as a unifier, someone who could bring rivals together. But not everyone was sold. Some whispered that his gentle approach lacked the fire needed to dominate Dutch politics. Those murmurs would grow louder, and what happened next would test everything he'd built. The year 1982 was a turning point, and not the good kind. Terlouw led D66 into the general election, hoping to build on past wins. Instead, the party crashed, losing 11 seats and shrinking to just 6. It was a brutal blow. Critics pointed fingers, with some saying his soft leadership couldn't keep up in a cutthroat arena. Rumors swirled that his diplomatic style had backfired, though no one could pin down exactly why voters turned away. Terlouw took the fall, stepping down as leader and leaving the House. It was a low moment, but he wasn't done yet. Something else was waiting around the corner. After politics, Terlouw traded the spotlight for a quieter role in Paris. In 1983, he became Secretary General of the International Transport Forum, a job that kept him out of Dutch headlines. He shaped global transport policies, but not without whispers of controversy. Some online chatter claims his progressive ideas clashed with industry giants, though details are scarce. Reports suggest he pushed for greener transport, ideas that were ahead of their time, but ruffled feathers. It's hard to know what's true, but one thing's clear: Terlouw was never one to shy away from big ideas. And he was far from finished. Back in the Netherlands, Terlouw found another way to leave his mark, through words. His children's books, like Koning van Kateren and Oorlogswinter, didn't just win awards, they captured hearts. Both were turned into films, proving his stories could cross generations. But it was his voice outside books that grabbed attention later. In 2016, he appeared on Dutch TV, his eyes misty as he begged younger generations to fight climate change. The moment went viral, with some calling it a wake-up call and others saying it felt staged. Whatever you think, it showed Terlouw's passion for a better world. But there was more to his story, something deeply personal. In 2017, Terlouw faced a loss that changed him. His wife, Alexandra, passed away after decades by his side. He's kept quiet about the pain, but those close to him noticed a shift. His later writings took on a reflective tone, as if wrestling with life's bigger questions. Fans online have speculated that her loss pushed him to speak out more, especially on issues like sustainability and European unity. It's just talk, but it makes you wonder, how much did this quiet grief shape the man we see today? And that wasn't the end of his journey. Even now, at 93, Jan Terlouw hasn't faded away. He's still a voice for the environment, animal welfare, and a united Europe. Some ex-users even speculate he might step back into the public eye, pointing to his recent comments on global issues. There's no proof, but it's clear his influence lingers. From a boy in wartime to a scientist, politician, and storyteller, Terlouw's life is a tapestry of victories and setbacks. His call to action, on climate, on unity, still echoes. So, what's next for a man who's seen it all? That's for us to watch, and maybe, to answer.